mid-range paladins are very, very different as well. But this is the big moment that China are now finally looking for. Dogg is going to have to try and like break the streak here. But for me, this series is one where I really don't want to see either player lose, because Kranich, as I'm sure we'll find out a bit more, really has put a lot of pressure on himself over the years to succeed. So he's not a player I want to see tank out at this point either. But how long can we keep disappointing this Chinese crowd, Raven?
I don't know. I mean, you know, maybe we're not disappointing them.
But,
but the players in general have not been even what we expected. You know, we actually rate the Chinese players very highly, and you know, they've just not been getting the job done. But look at these openings. So Dogg on the Quest Rogue and Kranich on the Secret Mage. And Kranich, there's a lot of variation in Secret Mage at the moment, and how far you even take it in terms of the late game. There are lists, you know, with Medivh, with Alex Straza, but still the whole big secret package. But Kranich is actually running a quicker version overall. So there's one Ice Block, there's Mirror Entity, 2 counter spells, but then there's Burglary Bully, Violent Balls, and Antonidas is like the late extra game.
Yeah.
But really, it's a faster list than what we've seen from a lot of the competitors in this tournament.
Right, yeah, it's faster for the most part, but as you said, there is still that little potential for a bit of clunkiness by having that Antonidas package in the late game, but speed is very much of the essence when you are playing against Quest Rogue in this matchup.
Yeah, and this opening is actually pretty huge as well. Just having, you know, one secret kind of frustrating, as the quest tracker is actually on the wrong class. So this is not Quest Mage, however much I wish it was. But yeah, we'll get that fixed in a minute. But yeah, this opening, the early minions from Mage really do just beat Quest Rogue up. And having, you know, 3 available in this hand already, when there can be another Arcanologist next turn, then there can be, you know, Sorcerer's Apprentice maybe into a cheap spell the turn after. Like, Quest Mage doesn't really have the tools readily available to deal with multitudes of these minions, especially the 3 health ones. It can be very awkward, and getting, you know, 5 to 6 to 7 damage in early really just changes the game, because then as the mage you can just go aggressive and send all the burn to the face.
It's the one blessing for Dogg in this spot is that it's not a super blowout start, right? It's not Mana Worm into Kirin into Free Secret, but it's good enough, right? It is minion presence. But Dogg has enough to just occupy the board for just now with the Firefly draw anyway, so we'll be able to contest for just a little while. And Kranich now having drawn 2 secrets, one off the Arcanologist, his hand is starting to get a little bit clunky with none of that secret activation synergy with the Kirin Tor Mage.
Yeah, he's going to have to navigate this very, very well here to get this game. And you know, we talked about Kranich's history over the course of the past couple of days. You know, playing at BlizzCon, playing in front of a big crowd. We have a huge crowd here, actually. It's still relatively early in the morning, and the crowd is pretty much all full. The venue is pretty packed here. But we can actually hear from what Kranich thinks about playing in front of a crowd.
I've experienced playing Hearthstone on a huge stage, and there are like a lot of Hearthstone fans. I really enjoy the energy of crowd. Even though there are a lot of people watching me playing Hearthstone, I always try to use those kind of energy to play my games.
Couldn't agree more. The crowds are awesome. We experienced it like first off at BlizzCon in front of just casting in front of a massive crowd, never mind playing, and it was quite the experience.
And you said the words, BlizzCon experience. There is no man who has perhaps as much experience in Hearthstone in playing in front of rabid, large, baying crowds as Kranich does, having already visited 2 World Championship events. But just to focus back in on the game, this counterspell that's just been picked up, last draw from Kranich off the 2nd Arcanologist, is going to be huge. Of course, counterspell can be used to counter the quest in this matchup, but a level deeper than that, when you choose to use it, is actually a little bit tricky, because quite often, once they get the quest in hand for Quest Rogue, you can play a different secret, right? And then they respect it being counterspell. They play what other spell they have in their hand, be it a Mimic Pod or a Backstab or whatever it is. Or Backstab would be able to proc immediately, but you know, Mimic Pod, that kind of thing. And then when counterspell isn't broken, they don't have enough mana left to use the quest, and then on the following turn you just drop the counterspell, and that's GG until they draw another spell.
Yeah, it gets really, really awkward, and even you could say, oh, well, you know, Mirror Entity, because then you can just play a minion into it, great. But then you might not want to play that minion that turn, you know, just usage of mana is very, very important as Quest Rogue. It does mess around, and he's got the choice of all 3 secrets at the moment.
Yeah, to clarify, that strategy usually works out best when the rogue has a fast quest completion. So they're looking at turn 5 or turn 6 actually playing the quest card. At that point, if you can just play the secret, if they have to play a minion to test for Mirror Entity, they have to play any spell, Mimic Pod to test for Counterspell, they then just don't have the mana remaining to actually play the quest, and then you can lock them out on the board.
It often needs to be exactly minion prep quest, and then that's like still,
or minion or backstab quest as well.
It's asking a lot of your opponent, and this mirror image actually a one of in Kranich's list, and can get some work done a little bit later on versus the rogue. I feel like probably doesn't do the job as much now unless Kranich really wants to defend the Sorcerer's Apprentice. But mirror image does just as good a job against 5/5s as it does 2/1s at this point in this deck.
Easy for you.
Yeah, I wish.
Gonna go ahead and just Mirror Entity here, hold back the Kirin Tormage for now as well, recognizing that he has plenty of time to get a tempo play out of that, or plenty of resources to use to get a tempo play out of that. And just the mirror images on the board, the main usage of this right now is how effectively it stalls out the Igneous Elemental. That's why you're seeing it come down this turn. It means there's now 2 targets on board that have to be answered before the Igneous Elemental can even start to make trades. Dogg held on to a Mimic Pod for a while here. I was wondering if he was considering that counterspell because he's seen 2 Arcanologist secrets getting drawn. Kranich's secret makeup in this deck is the 1 Mirror Entity, 1 counterspell, and 1 Ice Block. So it's statistically very unlikely that he hasn't drawn a counterspell off one of those 2 blocks.
2 counterspells in Kranich's list.
Is that not what I said?
No, you said 1.
That's what I read.
Yeah.
one Mirror Entity, 1 Ice Block, 2 counterspell. That's what I have written down. I don't know what I actually said, but there you go. So with 2 secrets drawn, there's a very, very high percentage chance that one of the secrets in hand is a counterspell. So Dogg really does have to consider that and think about keeping another spell in hand to be able to deal with counterspells. So the usage of the Mimic Pod may be a little bit surprising.
Yeah, and this is kind of nuts in itself. Look at this hand. There can be Kirin Tormage into a secret. Also, because of the Sorcerer's Apprentice still being alive, there can be the Arcane Intellect. There's a Fireball here right now. Another Fireball. And the 7 damage on board just through minions. This is what I was talking about. If you just get a few hits in with these early guys, suddenly, okay, you draw double Fireball. Let's end this game, especially when the Ice Block is already in hand. You have that guaranteed +1 turn on your opponent, even if it just means you can get an extra ping or 2 in to add up the damage to crit lethal.
Look at this diversion from Kranich here, by the way. This is a mark of a really, really strong player. Playing the counterspell in this spot, it's unlikely that the quest card itself gets played this turn because 2 mana would have to be allocated to play the 2 remaining Fireflies. So it would have to be prep quest at that point. The reason the counterspell came down here is that Kranich has switched gears. He now understands if he doesn't get this board banished, he's just pushing through enough damage to end the game with fireballs.
Gonna get him there,
So Counterspell, the card that's so powerful in this matchup because it can block the quest, Kranich has adapted to the situation and said, you know what? I don't really care if he quests anymore. As long as these minions stick and I connect with his face, these fireballs end the game.
Yeah, pretty much creating checkmate over the course of 2 turns with Fireball Ping is 14. So this 1 trade into the double trade now into the taunts. You push for 4 with the Kirin Tormage. Well, pretty much going to get you there.
What he might not have factored in this position is the double Balefin Tidehunter coming down. The good news for Kranich is that because there was no Vanish tried to be played, there's no backstab, there's no prep to really proc the counterspell at this point, he does still have the security to find 2 or 3 turns to set up this lethal situation, because as of right now, his counterspell is still blocking the quest, even
Easy
though
for you to say.
That wasn't the intention at the time it was played. Thank you.
Yes, I mean, like I said, having that early minion pressure makes so much of a difference in what you can do with this deck. This deck is an aggressive deck in its own, but just having the minions there, chipping away the damage means these fireball draws have just made the world of difference, and it looks like Kranich is set up to go 1-0 in this game.
Yep, the damage permanence of playing against Rogue, it's a phrase that casters have used, I believe, since the beginning of time.
I think I actually invented that phrase.
Did you?
Yeah,
oh, you're taking credit for that one.
Yep.
Okay, interesting. There was a moment in time where there were Farseers and anti-heal bots and bits and pieces in Rogue giving them security, but these days, damage dealt is damage dealt. They don't taunt, they don't heal, so the one thing that does make them very vulnerable to is these kind of direct 2-turn lethal setups. That's what Kranich identified backed up by the beautiful play of breaking the plan with the counterspell as well, which I really, really admire. And it's going to pick him up a big win here. And the Chinese losing streak is going to continue at least for one more game.
Yeah, and as we mentioned, this game, this match, is so important for both of these players for two very sort of different reasons to a large extent, but it's so important. And Kranich just having, let's be honest, a fairly straightforward first game, get the win under the belt, move on, it is going to be so huge for his confidence as well. As you know, we were just rounding up ideas there, the players, as Kranich did just have guaranteed lethal. Due to that damage permanence, he's going to go 1-0 with this mage, and he has his own rogue and his paladin to take games with, to take this series of one of the other Chinese players, Dogggg.
Yeah, and as we mentioned, mirror matches pretty much. So mirror matches kind of accentuate a little bit of the queue order variance in Conquest, which can be quite frustrating when you queue into a very similar lineup. One of the things some players don't like about Conquest is that you feel you have very little agency over how you're queuing and how that actually impacts the series. But when you do just, roll the good end of the matchup queue, that's a huge advantage. And honestly, that's just what we saw happen for Kranich there, but backed up by some very, very nice sequencing and great plays.
Yeah, of course. And, we've talked a lot about Kranich. He's putting a lot of pressure on himself to perform and to make it to Worlds again. You can hear more about it here.
I really want to qualify for World Championship because I already have been there twice.
He has advanced into the semifinals. Kranich is the only player to get to BlizzCon twice in a row.
If I make 3 times, then it might be kind of great record that nobody could reach. I was so disappointed that I didn't make World Championship last year. I was really stressed. People were saying I'm not good anymore. That was a hard time. I had some time to think about if I cannot make into the World Championship, then why do I play Hearthstone now? I traveled a lot and I talked with my family and friends. It was a hard time, but it was necessary. I really tried hard to find the answer. Yeah, I felt like I was too strict about myself, and the answer is that I just like this game. I just like playing tournaments. That's the reason why I'm back here. This game is just about my life. I try to put all my forward playing this game. I have to play Hearthstone. If I don't make into World Championship, then probably it would be sad, but I think it's okay.
Kranich piling on the pressure, and we kind of would feel the same way. We were talking about Kranich and his past experience at BlizzCon in tournaments overall, and I do kind of get it. If you get so close and can never quite finish up, get that first place, then it is very disheartening. But he is here again to try and make it to Worlds.
And it's something that really resonates with me personally, is when you're a very competitive person, you start to value your own self-worth by how successful you're being in these activities you choose to do. It's one of the things, honestly, that turned me away from playing competitively and towards just sitting in this beautiful, comfortable seat I'm in right now. So I'm really pleased for Kranich that, he's at least managed to find peace with that. He's back. He just realizes he enjoys what he's doing. The pressure's actually off a little bit of the nature of that, and it seems to be improving his play because he's back in a great position. Again, just a few games away from a 3rd World Championship, which would be unparalleled.
Yeah, and the other people who enjoy what they're doing at the moment is all the audience, all the people we've got watching this tournament live at the venue. You can see some of the cool stuff we've got. We've got player meetups where we saw the big queues there.
Yep.
And then we've got a puzzle that looks, frankly, far too difficult for me to even go and try, but that's like a wall-sized puzzle. And there's too many pieces for me to try and mess with. Look at this.
There's also a personal favorite of mine. There's a jeweler dev station as well. So if you're one of those guys who think, the Hearthstone developers don't know what they're doing, come on. You can come out here, you can challenge one yourself and prove your point.
Yeah, and I think looking at, the puzzle's been worked on over the course of yesterday, today, and hopefully be finished by the end of the event. And it looks to be that it's the new expansion splash art.
So
and, I'm quite excited about it, to be honest.
You see the fun and interactive area there as the billboard just read. It didn't actually just said interactive.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And there's a cool merch store as well with some stuff that we've not seen before, which was actually one of the most exciting things I saw. I was like, so we're selling merchandise. I've actually got a lot of the Hearthstone stuff already. And then I looked, it's like, this is stuff I've not seen. I need this.
Yeah, so I believe Dogg just went for a quick bathroom break, so that's why we are seeing all these beautiful shots of the ongoings. But that is just an upside as well, because when there is a little bit of a lull in the action, it means that the people here have plenty of stuff to keep them occupied. And as I think we mentioned this yesterday, but it really does have that feel of just kind of a mini dedicated Hearthstone BlizzCon, right? It feels like a convention.
Yeah, and you know, the World Championships is going to be a standalone event, and I feel like this is a very nice taster of what can come up later on in the Hearthstone Championship season. But we are ready to go again. It's going to be the good old Quest Rogue mirror. We're not going to see this matchup as much after next week.
Yeah, speaking of fun and interactive, here comes the Quest Rogue mirror. Just looking at the lineups here, Dogg has teched his deck a little bit more. He's gone Hungry Crab in there to try and give him a little more anti-aggro security, whereas Kranich has a more, you know, just pure Quest Rogue. He does have one Galactic Crawler in there, but Dogg does have the double Hungry Crab, which just by nature is a slightly lower value minion anyway. Galactic Crawler can actually do some work back and forth in the matchup anyway, so slight edge going to Kranich in terms of just the deck building in this mirror match.
Yeah, also as well, both players are playing ball and not swashbucklers.
Yes.
So they're playing the more like just charge, get them to face, as opposed to a potential value game. But I feel like a lot of players are leaning back towards now. You know, they kind of, you know, everyone sort of started Swashbuckler, then went away from it and just went balls just for more straight up damage. But I've seen one more Swashbuckler than I thought I would.
I know we're treading over old ground here, but that's another reason why I really have come back around to keeping the quest in Quest Warrior, because that was back in the days when the Swashbuckler was being cut, right? And there wasn't resource generation. Now, as you said, more people are going back to that Swashbuckler list, which makes it hard to just outvalue them without a hard win condition. But Kranich there did have the option to go prep Mimic Pod, and with Shadow Step in hand, if he hits any minion at that point, he's only one bounce away from rounding out his quest. Perhaps a little bit surprised that didn't happen, but still plenty of time. He feels doesn't have a turn 3 play right now anyway, so he can just go Mimic Pod on 3, keep the prep perhaps just to rush the quest ahead a turn earlier.
Yeah, one thing I actually do, this might be controversial, but do enjoy about this matchup is when both players complete the quest at roughly the same time, then the trades that happen and how much gets committed to the board at any given time, the vanish usages, because you constantly, instead of playing around, you know, a lot of damage over, you know, like 5-6 turns, in you know, most matchups you just remove a high attack minion. It's like, I need to play around the exact amount of like 4 or 5 minions that will just kill me next turn.
Right.
And like, it's few and far between. But there are some matchups that I've cast where like the trades become very, very close.
I actually I want to be a little bit contrary in this position, because that's actually one of the parts of the matchup that I like least. Because
really?
You can apply everything that you've just said to any other matchup, and it's just more interesting, right? Like, you have the decision of whether you trade a 4-4 into a 2-2, right? That has like upsides and downsides, whereas every trade is just an even 5-5 into 5-5. It's very simplistic, it's very linear at that point. So
Counterpoint.
So go ahead.
I was talking about this matchup specifically, so it's one of the few things I like about it.
Right, but I'm saying, like, the fact that the matchup boils down to just 5-5s hitting 5-5s and doing divisions of 5 in terms of how much face damage you can take.
It's maths I can work with.
Right. I guess we've solved it, yeah. It's simplistic enough at that point for Raven to tag along.
Well, there you go.
We've solved it. All right.
There we go. But the double Fireflies is absolutely huge, not just because, you know, it's 1-mana minion, easy to bounce, but it's the minion the resource generation, actually, which is really nice. Suddenly you can just really fill up the board as and when you want, because each one of those minions is in fact 2. And there's 2 bounces available now for Kranich as well, so it's not looking too bad. Prep quest can go a long way in terms of running away with this game. Whereas on the other hand, Dogg does have 4 bounces and a Mimic Pod, but the Igneous Elemental doesn't lend itself too well to his hand at this moment in time. And Dogg just said, anything you can do, I can do just as well, as he also Mimic Pods into a Firefly, which now with the Igneous Elemental on the board requires 0 bounces.
It works out okay for Kranich in this spot. Like, if you time out his quest activation, he does get it done through tactical usage of the Shadow Step before the Igneous Elemental can get procced, essentially, because he has that prep in his hand as well. So I think Kranich is perhaps just a turn ahead in this spot when you break it all down because of how slow that Igneous Elemental is. And we might even see Dogg respond to this and just switch straight onto the Fireflies themselves now with the bounce effects that he has.
Well, that's it. He just has so many bounce effects that the switch isn't even that hard at this point. And then the Igneous Elemental just changes from, you know, a key proc minion to actually just great. It's just more value again. Very similar to Mimic Pod in the double Firefly.
Yep. So now we can see 2 proc on the quest for Kranich, 2 Fireflies in hand, plus a preparation and then a quest that is going to join the hand very, very soon, as long as Kranich doesn't do anything silly like filling up his hand with flame elementals when that quest is about to activate.
I did that once.
You
do it
could,
again.
If you're prepping quest, you can always play around it by just prepping at the start of the turn.
Yeah, it feels like mentally incorrect though, doesn't it?
Right, yeah. Unless there's a shadow step involved in your chain, like if you're looking for a way to just stop yourself from doing that ever, you can just always prep at the start of the turn, and that'll help you out.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things. It's like the pyro equality forbidden healing thing, right? Like, you know, you would. It feels like so natural to just go pyro equality, and then you're like, oh, I could have actually just saved a 3-1 hit.
Right.
Too soon.
Now Doggy's going to be able to fill up the board a little bit here, but now it gets a. That's where it starts heating up a little bit, I would say, in terms of how quickly the quest is done, and then how much just straight up damage Kranich is going to be able to push through. And interesting that neither player has Vanish at the moment. That's one of the resets, right? If your opponent's got bigger board, you can like prep Vanish, and then you play minions, and then they need a Vanish to do the opposite thing back. So none of those options available for either player, so it's just going to be a pretty straight up one. Kranich obviously getting the quest down first, and there's no prep in Dogg's hand. This is a big deal for Kranich.
Yeah, and this is exactly what I said. Kranich just 1 turn, or half a turn if you want to look at it that way, ahead in the matchup, and it's because of how slow the Igneous Elemental is. It's such a fantastic security card to just solve half of your quest in just one individual body, but it is slow to activate, and Kranich sequenced his Shadow Step and his bounce effects nicely, using the 2-3 instead of the 3-2, so that there wasn't a clean trade on the board. That's enabled now this position where he's just in a good-looking spot, just ahead of the play, ever so slightly.
Yeah, now the problem is, well, one, Kranich can potentially just kill Dogg next turn. So, that, you know, like, I don't want to ignore that point. Obviously, there's patches and a bouncer in hand. But if that wasn't an available option, the Kranich can always just remove the small board, because we can see that the quest can't get played this turn as well as procced.
Yeah.
So he can just say, well, okay, I know you've got the quest in hand, I'll just wipe your whole board, because it looks like you don't have prep.
Yeah, this specific situation, when you're in the Quest Rogue Mirror, and wow, I Lorindered it again.
You did Lorinda the
Quest
hell out of that.
Rogue Mirror. And
Say Rascally Rabbit.
Rascally Rabbit. And you are half a turn behind. One of the things that you can do to catch yourself back up on the following turn is just go as wide as possible.
Yeah.
Just put, 6 1-2s on the board and then hope they can only kill 2 or 3 of them on their quest activation turn. That's exactly what Dogg tried to do, but the presence of the preparation in Kranich's hand alongside everything else meant that he could just speed up so much faster ahead of what Dogg was capable of.
It just has too many minions available. Dogg filled the board up, ready for that quest, but now Kranich with the patches, with a bounce. He's doing pretty good about this.
20 plus 5, bounce the 5, do it one more time. Looks good
I
to
can
me.
do.
Yep.
It's going to be lethal, and Kranich going ahead against Dogg. 2-0 in this series. Such a big deal, as I said, for Kranich.
I'm looking around this room, and there are some dumbfounded looks. There's hands on head. I'm sure they're a very respectful audience, so we'll get the round of applause here for Kranich. But this crowd actually cannot believe what they're seeing right now. No one could have predicted this, even if you don't consider China to be the strongest region, which we could sit and have a debate about. No one was expecting a 0-5, 0-6, whatever the record ends up being after this series.
Yeah, it's just statistically like low chance,
That's
right?
very true,
You know what I mean? It's just like, it's just not supposed to go like that. But you throw a bit of skill into the game, you throw a bit of ill fortune on one hand, maybe good fortune on another, and these things can happen. But Dogg is not out of it yet. He's still in this match, and we have seen reverse sweeps before. These are not uncommon. And what I will say is, like, it depends on matchups. We talk about, not so much queue order, but how the matchups end up. Dogg's paladin, I feel, is actually lined up pretty well versus a lot of Kranich's decks, even with the druid band out.
All right, good to see. Still some enthusiasm going around.
They got this.
These fans are retaining just a little bit of hope as, again, we see the tour of the fun and interactive area. I'm going to keep going back to the well on that one.
I can't actually see who's there because the crowd is just like around whoever that is.
The Mandarin characters above that actually did just translate into fun, and that's what that
I didn't know you
was.
spoke. I could read.
I do.
Oh, it's Matt.
Hi, Matt. Hey, buddy. Is he the dev in the jeweler dev? Is that what's happening over there?
Potentially. Maybe it's just due to signing. I think the jeweler devs, there was no PC there, right? So that jeweler devs the next station over. An update on that later, but we are going to go into this matchup. This was the matchup I was hoping for, actually, because I feel like there's a key difference in these lineups. So
Let me stop you there. Is it Deathwing?
Okay, that's a yes and no answer. That is, in fact, a difference in the deck, but not what I wanted to talk about.
All right, go ahead.
I want to talk about a bit more of a, inconspicuous card difference is actually the Cold Light Seer.
Yes.
In Dogg's list, he runs 2. And if you don't know what that is a Murloc 2/3 for 3 mana that buffs the other Murloc's health that's on the board. And when you're playing a deck that sort of works by getting good trades, trading onto the board, keeping the board by trading, when your opponent has the exact same cards, except they have like 2 more health, that actually becomes a very, very, very big problem. And I genuinely feel like that these Cold Lights, if drawn and manage to play on a board of Murlocs, could just win the game for Dogg.
Oh boy, that one-drop draw for Kranich was so important. He was about to potentially fall so far behind here. We could have gone coin Rockpool Hunter into Rockpool Hunter, but he's seeding any buff potential back to Dogg at that point. He's saying to Dogg, okay, if you have a tempo play here, then I'm going to get blown out. But the same thing, if Rockpool Hunter comes down against the 1/2, that's an even worse position to be in.
Well, do you just pass? Next turn you Tidecall a coin Rockpool. It's slow, but then next turn you do that, then the turn after you Rallying Blade or War Leader.
Yep.
Like, that feels like a very, very strong backswing when you've fallen behind in the early matchup here.
Interesting decision from Dogg in this spot. He deliberately chose to guarantee that Grimscale Chum buff onto the Cold Light Seer. He could have tried to get a second buff onto the Tidecaller instead and got it out of range of Rallying Blade in this position, which of course is a weapon we've seen teched into Paladin more and more these days to deal with the threat of all these 3 health minions in the metagame. The Mana Worms, the Arcanologists, the Murloc War Leaders, all of these guys that need dealing with. But it's going to pay off here because now the Cold Light Seer just comes down out of range of the Rallying Blade.
This is huge, and all I would say is imagine if Kranich went for the minion play instead of Rallying Blade to try and get a board. He would just get blown out by this Cold Light Seer very, very hard. Whereas even now, the Rallying Blade kills 1 chum. That minion should have 1 health. That shouldn't be a problem for, it shouldn't be something you swing Rallying Blade at.
Right.
But now it is. And now it's like, well, whatever Kranich plays dies to this board, and the board lives. Like, this is the impact I was talking about for Cold Light Seer in the mirror match when your opponent doesn't play that Murloc.
I like this decision here to go Tidecaller instead of Vilefin Inquisitor, valuing having the 3 attack over the 4 health that you would have if you'd gone the other way around, because he needs to do relevant chunks of damage to these minions on the board. Consecration is in hand for Dogg, which is kind of a whiff at this point. He'd like to be curving out a bit more aggressively because of how fast his start has been, but the Rockpool Hunter has saved him, because otherwise this was actually a fully dead turn if he didn't draw something to play.
Yeah, it was very awkward. The Consecrate would have meant the board could be cleared, but not very, not nicely at all. It's very, very weird. You don't want to use Consecrate. Rockpool, though, changes everything. And again, look at this. There's no Consecrate for Kranich yet. So again, Kranich just battling back from the board, and all this is off the back of that Cold Light Seer. And the Murloc opening with it, but that chum should be dead.
Yeah, even though it looked like quite a simple, blowout opening from Dogg at this point, there was a decision on turn 1 and turn 2 involving the Grimscale Chum.
Yes.
Whether he played Murloc Tidecaller first and then held back the Chums to maybe just buff each other and then go off that way. He went Chum first, hit the buff on the Tidecaller. He then decided to stick on that size Tidecaller and just play that first and then sequence the Grimscale Chum afterwards, which has ended up paying out pretty big because he's just stuck this 3/4 to the board the entire time because it got that additional buff.
Yep. Stonehill coming down now for Dogg. I actually, although it's very easy to just pick Tyrion every single time, no matter what's going on, I actually kind of like Curator with the way the hand's lining up. because Curator 1 will come down after Spite Ridge, more than likely. So you can actually just drop it on 7. You actually almost just refill your hand with Curator. It's like Tyrion's nice, but you might just get a dead draw, and then Tyrion, if your opponent's gained the board by then, is much less impactful.
I agree with you, and so does Dogg, but I think the motivation for this primarily comes down to Gentle Megasaur, right? Because that is going to get drawn by this Curator, and that means if you have Murlocs in play at that point, Megasaur is kind of that big last push that you need to blow out the game. There's no Kings in the hand that's like ending the game right now.
Yeah.
Dogg actually play one Primordial Drake in this list as well, which is a little bit unusual for how aggressive the list is, which would kind of be a dead draw at that point. It's going to be just going to be being played and blowing up your own board, but the Megasaur would be massive.
Yeah, yes and no, because there's no Vilefin been played, right? So at the moment, with that turn playing out how it did, which was Dogg's plan all along, that the Rock Pool is the only Murloc, so late game definitely. But I just think the Curator just feels good to play and draw more cards.
Well, the Curator will also draw another Murloc alongside the Megasaur as a minimum.
Yeah. So you could at worst do 2.
Right, and he had 3 Murlocs on the board that he chose to trade, which I guess devalues it a little bit. But I mean, yeah, you are just looking for some heavy snowball cards at this point. Now getting Blessing of Kings as well is exactly what he's looking for, because Dogg probably understands with how slow-ish Kranich's start has been. There's a good chance from Dogg's perspective that he's racing Deathwing in this position, right? That's a very realistic possibility to be in hand. Once Kranich gets as far as Curator, he's going to know that it's a very real possibility that it's the reality that Deathwing is in hand. So he needs to pressure quickly before Deathwing can swing the game.
Yeah, what's frustrating here for Kranich is playing like the Hoy list. I'll call it. You know, It's got the 1 Van Cleaver in.
That's what I have written down.
Yeah.
Hoy Paladin.
Yeah, I made loads of notes and just on Kranich's Paladin just wrote Hoy. And I was like,
30 card Hoy Paladin.
Yeah. But you know, having Curator and Deathwing, Curator just doesn't draw a card. All that Deathwing is a different card in a different world. You know what I mean? Like Deathwing is just sitting in hand, and that could be any other card in the deck. Because you would have drawn it by then anyway, but okay.
Now we have some of the survivability we've been looking for, but as I mentioned, that Megasaur in hand is starting to look potentially pretty juicy to just give that extra power spike that you need. Blessing of Kings as well, picked up on a previous turn, as I mentioned. So those cards did turn out to be very, very important, because otherwise 4/6 Taunt into Tyrion, into find something to do for 1 turn into Deathwing, could have swung this on its head.
Hydrologist Noble Sacrifice,
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like a lot of the time that helps. But look at the difference from 3 turns ago or 2 turns ago, Dogg's hand size, which is why Curator is just nuts.
Yeah.
He had barely anything. He had a Consecrate and a Dream. And then you play Curator and suddenly, boom, hands refilled. And this is the power of Paladin at the moment. They go early aggression. Then, out of nowhere, by the way, let's rock the late game as well. Oh, Poison. Not bad.
Poison pushes pretty hard in this position. Trade a 2-1 into a 4/6 and keep going. Seems reasonable.
If you're going to play it before the Hydrologist...
Divine Shield and Blessing of Kings instead, which achieves the same thing, pushing a little bit less damage, but building a much more resilient board state.
Yeah, I did wonder whether it was actually going to be Divine Shield and get the True Silver Champion online, because you can just swing once and then have it equipped for the next turn. It's not like Dogg is particularly worried about his health total at this second, but with the fear of Deathwing, obviously your health total between 2 and 3 swings is actually not a lot of damage.
Yeah, the tough part there is that if he knew he was going to roll the Poisonous, I think we potentially, as the game ends here with the True Silver draw through the Tyrion, I think we would have seen him go with the Hydrologist play before the Megasaur anyway, and then just poison through and then build a board that way and have Blessing of Kings to charge on the following turn. Because he didn't know that was going to happen, it's only a 3 out of 10 shot. He chose to give himself more security, and that flexibility of his play, loading up the bigger board with the Divine Shield, Blessing of Kings, and reacting to the state, has led finally for these Chinese fans to have something to cheer about as Dogg gets on the board.
Yeah, as soon as the lethal was apparent there, the crowd, you know, the applause came straight away. There was no delay. There was no waiting for the portrait to explode. It's like, right, let's do this. But again, that matchup, I do feel like the Cold Light Seer and the early Murloc play made such an impact. Those chums, like, sank a Rallying Blade hit, there we go, as well as the second one that had, like, double trading as well. So it's nuts, absolutely nuts.
It's very interesting because the card that it's kind of in direct competition with in a lot of the mid-rangey lists is Outdoor Peacekeeper.
Yep.
Outdoor Peacekeeper would have ended up being a really great security blanket against the Deathwing from Kranich, but because he had Cold Light Seer, the game never gets to Deathwing. You don't need to outdoor a Deathwing if the game doesn't get to turn 10.
Yep. That's good advice to go by there. But we've seen Dogg actually get the victory, and we've been saying Dogg, but it's actually Dogggg. And if you're wondering how his name came about, check this out.
Well met.
我叫 Dogg， 然后
My name is Dogg. I'm 24 years old and I am from China.
最喜欢吃
My favorite food is hot pot.
炉石以外，我可能就是
When I'm not playing Hearthstone, I like to play Warcraft and online soccer.
现在比较享受
My favorite thing about Hearthstone is everything. I enjoy the whole process and winning is very satisfying.
My favorite player is myself。
In fact, Sottle will explain how Dogg got his name.
All right.
We apologize for that, but there's actually some good information there.
It was.
He actually just loves Hearthstone.
All right,
Everything.
buckle up and prepare your cool story, Bobs. This is how he got his name. Originally, he had a handle that translated roughly to just like average Chinese guy, ordinary Chinese guy, something like that. Then he became known as an arena player. So he changed a name which translated to something along the lines of, I'd be dumb as a dog if I played more than 3 minions, because he kept getting busted by mind control tech in arena. Eventually, that just got shrunk down to just Dogg, but he's kept those 4 G's on the end of his name to remind him how many minions is too many minions against mind control tech.
Brilliant. I want to see Dogg play Evolve Shaman and say, I don't want more than 4 minions. Like, oh, it's going to get awkward with some totems. We have the next match coming up after this series is over. It's going to be Diego Diaz versus Trunks. Diego Diaz, former representative, has got a lot to prove, I feel, in this matchup.
And really, I've just heard so much from Admirable about how he's just become a huge fan of Diego Diaz. He thinks it would be huge for the South American, Latin American regions to have a player going to the World Championships from that area. He's just a big fan of Diego Diaz personally as well, so I'm sure he'll be really in high spirits while casting that matchup.
Yeah, you will have TJ and Admirable bringing you that one, but for now you are stuck with myself and Sottle to finish up this series.
Stuck!
Yeah.
Stuck! Oh, give yourself a bit of credit sometimes, Raven. Come on.
Stuck with myself. And Sol's going to finish up this series. There we go. It's all about the punctuation, isn't it?
All right.
Dogg going to be on the Quest Mage, and Kranich, of course, just got his Paladin left.
You got debated by the production mishap in game 1. You said Quest Mage.
Oh my God. I did. I just want to see Quest Mage. I just want to see.
It's a cool deck.
Seat story. It's all down to this guy's toast and the other guys
That's
there.
fair. Quest Rogue, though, against the aggressive Paladin. And this is my big worry. After Dogg lost the Quest Rogue mirror, Quest Rogue is the hardest deck for both of these players to get through against the other one because of how aggressive the remainder of the decks were. So that Quest Rogue mirror is probably something we should have actually paid more attention to while it was going on. Was actually a really big break point in the series because it would mean one player getting their Quest Rogue out with a win. Because that was Kranich, even more so than the 2-0 numerical advantage he had, he was actually just strategically in a much better position in the series.
Yeah, and I think that, Conquest, although, pick order is something to be debated, and it's just...
or not.
Yeah, or debated. And it's actually, doesn't have too much impact, but the actual matchups and the way lineups work, there is normally one deck you need to get through, right?
Yeah,
and it is, in this series, the Quest Rogue. Kranich off to a pretty quick start, though, just jumps as far as the eye can see in the past couple of games. But look at this, Rockpool, War Leader, even got the redemption as well, so...
Yep,
It might just be too much to handle for Dogg here. We are in the early stages, of course, but this is a hell of an opening, and with a Megasaur follow-up on curve if desired, even just hitting one Murloc with Megasaur can be a problem, because it is a 5-4 at the end of the day.
It is, and especially since the War Leader got buffed here into a 4-4, it's just such a resilient position where like you said, just Megasaur and hit Wind Fury. Sweet. Like
Awesome,
just,
yeah.
An 8
Or even,
damage beat stick.
Plus health, plus 1-1.
Yeah.
It's actually... Divine Shield! I'm just going to start naming all the adapts. Like, they're all taunt! Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All but one.
Okay.
But yeah, they're all just great to have this War Leader stick.
Stealth until your next turn!
I mean, yeah. Rockpool into redemption? Okay.
So he wants to kind of guarantee the stick of a minion, I guess? What does Dogg play in the way of removal in his deck? He's actually playing the no removal version, right? Last time I checked, yeah, there's no backstab, nothing. So it'd actually be hard to deal with this with a 3/4 or 4/4 minion, depending on which way he went with the war leader on the board on its own anyway. So a little bit interesting that Kranich did, you know, want so much security in having a Murloc stick to the board.
Yeah, I think the problem is if you Redemption now, regardless of what you play is next turn, Redemption's probably going to get Murloc value, you know, Megasaur's there, War Leader's there, so you've got like bankable value from this Redemption. If you play War Leader, then go into Megasaur, then when's Redemption getting played, and are you going to end up Redemption a 1/1? You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, this is just like Redemption Murlocs with this hand is so powerful that I think Kranich just wants to guarantee it, and you know, +1 damage. Does it really matter too much here?
Mimic Pod being fired out from Dogg. That's just reflecting kind of the desperation of his hand right now. Needs to try and pick something up. Elfin Tidehunter isn't bad, but it's not the bounce effect or fast minion that he needed. You know, a second and third Firefly at this point to go into the Flame Elemental.
Feeling Consecrate off the top. Close.
Unlucky. Lesson for streamers and casters out there, just always shot call stuff like that. Because the one time it happens, you're a god.
I've done that like 3 times in a row before. I think is my maximum.
3 times
Yeah,
in
no,
a row?
honestly, it happened. I was like, okay, I got accused of actually cheating. I was like, no, I actually just can't. It was just lucky.
Your secret Illuminati caster powers have allowed you
honestly,
to just...
honestly. Burn Bristle was a card we were discussing backstage about, you know, its usage. Does it actually have a place in Paladin? It obviously depends what you want to do with it. In this aggressive,
in the more aggressive,
in this aggressive list of Paladin. Right. I will say that I played a lot of Hoy's list, and Burn Bristle might not be very flashy a lot of the time. Often it does get a pretty great job done. It can soak up so many hits in the sort of aggressive style mirrors. It's often very, very valuable indeed.
Igneous Elemental is a massive, massive draw for Dogg in this position, but the redemption on the Burn Bristle just turns out to work out so well off of what was a top deck in the Wicker Flame, but it ended up being Kranich being rewarded at least for his sequence of plays. But the Igneous Elemental was huge here because Dogg actually hasn't been under that much pressure. He's found himself a few extra turns than you might often have against a more aggressive deck like this Paladin is. But he just had no quest activation in sight in his hand yet. So Igneous Elemental at least gets him to 2 and 3 on the Fireflies at this point. But the pressure is just about to ramp up from Kranich because now he has that Finger turn backed up by a Megasaur or a War Leader on the following turn.
Yeah. This is tough. Do you actually trade to kill the Igneous, then vanish? Because anything you play dies to Finger, and and then you're in trouble.
Well, the crab doesn't, as far as he can see, right? He could have traded and crabbed for a 3/4. That's kind of a janky play.
I guess.
Yeah.
And I know,
give it up.
And I know Vanish can get high value later. You know, like that. I am not trying to say this is the optimal Vanish turn. Well, but it's just a consideration to stall the Finger out.
Well, here's the thing, right? He doesn't have quest activation done yet with his hand, so he can play the Flame Elementals here. Now the Finger turn happens, you say, I don't care that the Finger turn just happened because I vanish your board, and then my Vanish also bounces my Flame Elementals back to the hand to finish the quest.
And there's actually turn 7, so there's 1 mana to drop the Flame Elemental, right?
This is just better.
Yeah, okay, so I was close.
You saw 90% of the lines.
I'll take that. It's better than my average.
Also known as being wrong.
Be quiet, so.
Okay.
Okay, you actually got to do the thing where you stop talking now, aren't you? First time for everything. Finger can get some value here, of course. Just trading away this minion. Let's see what comes out. Just a combination of War Leader or Megasaur. I think you generally go for the Megasaur, though.
Must move quickly.
Yeah, neither one really secures you against Vanish, which you know is the one thing that you're going to be scared of. So to my mind, yeah, again, War Leader looked more promising because you could just ram in this rallying blade to go along with it. Just fits curve just that little bit nicer. But this Vanish play, Dogg really did recognize the situation. Now he is going to be really rewarded because this Vanish is a huge turn for him now. Finishing off his quest, at least finishing the activations and dealing with the board state.
Yeah, and talk about Kranich's experience. Not really heard too much about the way he actually approaches the game. It's more just, you know, what his past been like, how he wants to perform in this tournament. But we can hear from him about what he thinks about unpredictable play. in Hearthstone?
I've changed my strategy a lot for this tournament because I'm not a guy that my opponent easily expects. So I always try to avoid the same strategy and try to build something new.
And we saw that in the flesh during the playoffs, right? The
Yep.
secret hunter that he brought was just absolutely unexpected by so many people. He had a unique shaman alongside that as
Yes.
well. Actually just straight up aggro shaman, when even back then evolve shaman was just all the rage. So those are not just words from Kranich, that is very much reality.
Right, he's going to get the vanish off now. So the plan that we were talking about a turn or so ago is coming to fruition. Yeah.
Okay.
Combined, we got there.
Team effort, boys.
From what you said, I did 90% of the work. So you just took the easy 10%.
Makes a change.
Okay, so Flame Elementals are in hand, so instead of replaying, he actually chose to play and bounce the crab, which is actually just more value over the course of time.
Right. Well,
Stops the Finger
yes.
being replayed and Kranich going, okay, again, you know.
right, which, you know, you can kind of like think through what would have happened, right? Kranich would have dropped down the Finger again, then he would have traded with Finger, he would have pulled a bunch more Murlocs, and then you also know that you're bouncing a War Leader back to the hand as well, so then that new board of new Murlocs...
He might just die.
Right,
Like,
exactly.
this kind of health, you might just die.
Yep. And now, the double South Sea Deckhand, and I don't think we've seen the patches just yet.
Ooh, I want to see the
Yes, we
crab.
have. All right, never mind. When did we see the patches?
Does he play patches? Well, was it trade off versus the early Murlocs?
Must have been,
right?
yeah. Just brain lapsed on this one. Don't remember it happening. Fair enough.
1 mana, 7/7. We fought. Flame Wreath was
Nice
bad.
me.
This crab's already at 2 Murlocs now. It's probably going to chew up a few more. At least a paladin at some point.
And suddenly, Kranich has just got himself into a hell of a mess here. It's been, again...
Well,
Go on.
he is only 2 turns away from Deathwing.
Fair.
No, I'm genuinely not even joking.
No,
you,
it's a
you
genuine
know
out.
I love Deathwing.
Oh, you're right.
but,
You're
like,
absolutely right to call that out. It's a genuine out in this position.
Yeah. Because guess what? 5/5s, you need 3 to kill Deathwing. And if you're putting 3 5/5s in, especially when Deathwing kills whatever's already on the board, well, Dogg just doesn't have that many resources that we can see. And Kranich might just go for it. He might just put his opponent on a low enough damage, low enough health, that the damage from one swing from Deathwing wins him the game. He also has Blessing of Kings or Stonehill and Hero Power this turn. Stonehill feels safer.
Kranich has a lot of things to consider here. I think the thinking the thinking here is to go for board control this turn, play his Curator on 9, and then play his Deathwing on 10, right? But he's also got to consider how in the meantime he whittles Dogg down to 12 or less, right? Or 15
Exactly,
if he still holds the Rallying Blade equipped at the same time. So there's actually a lot of complicated mathematics going on that turn as to how exactly everything interacted to just make turn 10 Deathwing try and hit you with it next turn, just be a lethal setup.
Also as well, I love the, I said Stonehill or Blessing of Kings. A quick glance back at the board, Blessing of Kings.
Yes.
This is the drawback of all your minions being 5s and having a dagger, right? If you've got a minion, you can see Kranich's 8/1, which traded very well into those 7/7 crab, means that, well, either the dagger goes in for the value trade, which means your opponent's on 8 health, or they have to jam a 5/5 in, but instead Dogg drawing the vanish off the top means he can throw everything back to hand and say, okay, let's go, because I have 2 more mana to play 2 more 5/5s this turn.
Yeah, a crucial draw for Dogg in that spot, just to be able to shut down all of the pressure immediately. And now Kranich is kind of back to square one with his game plan, because yet again there is 10 damage being threatened onto the board. Curator comes down, 6 damage is available to charge through that, and now there's 15 more from hand right now.
You know what's a bit nutty? The dagger actually into the Curator, the 6 health sets up the Deathwing kill.
Yep.
Which is actually kind of crazy. We see some of the key cards in Kranich's Murloc Paladin is pretty much Hoy's, well, exactly Hoy's list. The Deathwing is the only dragon, so it'll always be pulled from Curator. And the one of Vine Cleaver really surprised me, but the more I played it, the more I was like, you know what?
Oh, Vine Cleaver's like one of my favorite
Yeah, I was like,
cards.
you know what? I can get behind this. Like, just 12 damage for a start. It's just pretty sweet. The tokens got a lot of work done. look at this.
You know what's crazy about this? I mean, you pointed out like the dagger hit setting up the perfect 12, which is incredible. But the thing is, Dogg knows what's happening here, right?
Yes,
like,
he knows what's in hand.
He can actually see this play out. And there, that look right there is when he just realized he's about to go down to 12. Deathwing has definitely been drawn off Curator.
Just loses.
And he has nothing to prevent. He's just trying to set this up. So he pushes damage to face so he can deal the 1 extra. He has to play his entire hand right now. Yeah, this is fine too. Stone Tusk Boar, the 1 extra from the dagger next turn will end it. He needed to set up this lethal push. You saw that moment of consideration where he realized the setup and then he realized he had to push the damage through. Kranich now considering all the various implications himself, but Dogg has just come out 1 step ahead in this final battle of wits around that very, very visible Deathwing.
The smallest step ahead, I would say. This is as close as it was ever going to get. But can Kranich hide behind a Stonehill this turn?
He needs to get lethal off this Gentle Megasaur.
Oh, okay. Poisonous not there.
Nope, doesn't get it.
And the crowd, I don't know if you heard that, but cheers just went up from the crowd as they saw these adapts. This crowd plays Hearthstone. They see those adapts and go, damn, they're not. You hate to see that, basically. No Wind Fury, no plus attack.
And this is the moment they've all been waiting for. The comeback, the reverse sweep potential now from Dogg. But that is very, very unlucky.
So, still get down, right? I mean, we can see it's over. But can Kranich make trades and survive here? He can, right?
No.
Nah, it's not gonna be enough. And wow, it's gonna be even up. Dogg is gonna take this to the last game versus Kranich. That was very, very close indeed, and the Quest Rogue got through.
That was such a cool ender. Like the 2-turn setup to go for board control, then Curator on 9, then the Deathwing on 10. That was a great plan from Kranich. Dogg scouted it out and then got himself the lethal setup so Deathwing couldn't be played. But then Kranich still had that role for plus attack or for Wind Fury, or I believe +1/+1 as well would have done it in the end because he still had Rockpool Hunter to back it up. Very, very unlucky in the end.
Yeah, that was so close. But now China is so close at getting a player through to continue in this series and getting a win on the board. China is 0-5 at the moment in matches. Dogg has the chance to be, the redeeming factor to be able to just get that win at least.
But let's not tunnel on the Chinese player here because Kranich, as we heard from earlier as well, does take World Championship qualification very seriously. He holds it so much higher than everything else. We heard the statement from him, right, there was a point where if I wasn't qualifying for the World Championship, then why was I doing this? It's great to see that he's come past that. He's just enjoying playing Hearthstone for fun now, but it speaks volumes as to how much pressure he'll be putting on himself right now as well.
You know what's nuts? Kranich went like World Championships, World Championships, missed one. He misses one, and he goes,
God, I'm bad.
God, dude, I suck. It's like, what? Crazy, man. Crazy. As we get into this last game, on one hand, China's got a chance at taking one.
Again,
on the other,
I don't know how much of this is coming through, but this is a knowledgeable Hearthstone crowd because as soon as there was 2 Mana Worms in hand, it wasn't excitement, but there was just a murmur of, oh yeah, two Mana Worms.
Yeah, Kranich, though, not got a terrible opener either. It really is the battle of the 1-drops, but in the battle of the 1-drops, I would often desire Mana Worms on the coin.
Tell me more about your Mana Worm-based desires, Raven.
Off-stream.
Okay.
There is Rockpool now, though. So that actually does change a few things.
It really does.
Rockpool onto Tycaller means that these Mana Worms get chewed up, which is pretty much the exact draw Kranich needed from what we can see on board. But now, even Vault Potion, it's huge.
There's a great deal of Admirable going down right now.
What to do?
Dogg considering whether he wants to go for the coin line to get immediately 1 Mana Worm in the position to contest the Tycaller, but he'll be doing the same permutations that we just did with the Rockpool Hunter. If he plays just 1 Mana Worm, that gets chewed up so badly. If he goes Mana Worm, coin, Mana Worm, then there's still the second Mana Worm on the board that can get chewed up, but he still has position where he has the second Mana Worm in play. He can then leverage Frostbolt and the remaining Mana Worm to be able to counteract the Rockpool Hunter swing. So this is actually a great decision from Dogg, in my opinion, to just really load out and go for the double.
Just another rock pool, though. So at worst, Kranich on turn 3 can go Tide Collar, rock pool again.
Yep. And it looks like with Dogg potentially having a Frostbolt turn, he will end up passing tempo back to Kranich, which makes just a Tide Caller rock pool turn very, very appealing.
Yeah, more than likely going to trade into the 1-3.
So if you trade into the 2-3, your argument is that you can just then ping down.
Yeah, you're not asking your opponent for a Frostbolt.
Right. So he's going to go ahead and do it. The point that I was going to then elaborate on is that if you trade into the 1-3, well then the 2-3 and the ping then has a value trade on your 2-3.
Okay, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So actually whichever way you do it, there's kind of a punish in that regard. But here we do see the Frostbolt come down. Now the Mana Worm and the Tide Caller are going to trade evenly.
No. Now I want to see Chicken get played. I want to see Tide Caller, rock pool, go face.
No,
well,
the value trade's still there, though. You're still playing a bunch of 2-3s this turn. That's the problem.
Okay.
It has to trade. There's just too many good trades coming back the other way. Ugh. I respect your quest for free damage, though.
Yeah.
When free damage isn't there, it should be taken, and that's still, in 2017, something that players don't do enough. Go face in a position where there's no punish. Unfortunately, there was a very, very clear punish for going face in that spot.
Face. So let's get back to Dogg's list as well. Dogg's mage list is very strange. The bottom half of it is secret mage. The top half of it is actually just a gunter mage.
Get him. Press the one in the middle and hit him in the face.
The secret makeup here is 2 counterspell, 2 ice breath.
Yes.
So that means that this Mega Soul was never under threat of a mirror entity.
Correct.
Which makes Kranich's turn very easy. Yes, Mega Soul.
It also makes the Discover pick more linear as well, because if I remember rightly, you have to pick your Discover before you find out if Mirror Entity will go off as well, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Because Mirror Entity will pop last.
Yeah, but no Mirror Entity being there means that he didn't have to factor that into his considerations. And yeah, this is actually a very slow Secret Mage list from Dogg. It's almost a hybrid Secret Gunter Mage, where he has Medivh, Pyroblast, double Ice Block in there as well. So the speed of Kranich's opening has just allowed him to get a little bit ahead of the play.
Yeah, there's even the Ooze in this mage list.
Yes.
Which, you know, again, you
Mirror
think
Tech, right?
Yeah, you think Secret Mage, and like, what's going on?
Play around Volcanic Potion there, trading 5 damage, or trading down essentially into the 2-3 to make sure that the 2-3 couldn't then go into the 5-4 to create a much better Volcanic Potion turn. Kranich is definitely understanding positions where he can lose the game from this spot.
Also, as well, he is planning on playing Tarion, as now he has full information that that's a counterspell. So, you know, suddenly, you know, the more minions being alive means a little bit more. And now he's just pushing a lot of damage. Yeah, and that's
turn 6 block pop.
It's nuts, absolutely nuts. The second secret was just like, okay, Kranich knows exactly what's going on now, and now Fireball ping, or now Valet into the Volc Potion, but with 3 3s across the board, Volcanic Potion frankly does very, very little.
Does nothing.
So what?
You win.
Yeah, there's nothing he can do. That's actually just it. Kranich just checkmated Dogg within minutes at that point.
China, I'm so sorry to have to break this news to you, but it's 0-6.
I mean, I just don't know what to say. I'm sorry, China. Well, it's my fault, but we just talk about the games.